Barakata Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakha HaKodash. What you're looking at is something I found, a picture I found on Google Images. It just says the law. This is probably from a law firm or whatever. I just wanted to get something that said the law on it pertaining to the law of the scriptures. And, since this just had the term the law, I just used that to signify what we're going to be talking about in this lesson. Because you have a lot of these wacky ass Christians that refuse to acknowledge what's written in the Bible and continue in their ignorance of what they've been taught in these churches and these so-called pastors and deacons that have gone to these different colleges and theologian schools. They refuse to acknowledge what's written in the scriptures and serve their own belly. And they say things like the law is done away with, which they can't find any scripture that says the law is done away with. We're no longer under the law, and just a lot of different things that they're saying in these different Christian, wacky ass Christian churches, just to justify them not keeping the law, and so they can mainly justify them eating pork and eating abominable foods. Especially among Jake, that's their main thing. So they found, because that's how Jake is, they try to find a loophole or something so that they can consume it upon their wickedness. That's what the Lord said, among my people are found wicked men. So this lesson is going to be called The Glory of the Law is What Was Done Away With. And also the sacrifices, but I'm going to focus on the glory of the law, because when you go back 2,000 years ago, when Yahawashi was on the scene, it was all about the law. The law, the law, the law, the law, the law. Now, don't get me wrong, we keep the law to the best of our ability, because part of the second covenant is that we're gonna have the laws written into our inward parts. So if we're gonna have the laws written into our inward parts, if you have half a brain, it should let you know that, well, if the part of the second covenant is the laws to be put into our inward parts, how can the law be done away with? It doesn't make sense. And what it is people err not knowing the scriptures. This is Judges 5:11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the place of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of the villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. So pretty much we're supposed to rehearse the righteous acts. Now, how do we do that? By keeping the law to the best of our ability, and also by going out there and proclaiming this word and proclaiming these laws, statutes, and commandments out there, that you're not supposed to break them. So we're supposed to tell them, and also we're supposed to keep them, because that's the reason why they were written. They were written to separate us from the nations, to give us a distinction from these other nations. That's why they knew that we were the Israelites by the way we dressed and by the customs we kept, and we didn't eat pork, and we didn't celebrate the holidays that those nations celebrated. We didn't worship the gods that they worshiped. All of the law pretty much kept us separated and kept us holy from these nations. And that's the reason why the Lord gave it to us, because we are his inheritance. Yasha Allah is the inheritance of the Lord. All right, so there's a bunch of scriptures you could go to where these wacky tacky Christians try to use that particular verse or that particular chapter, which they have none understanding of, to say that the law was done away with. But this is one of the main ones. I'm going to read the point, and then I may jump up a little bit. This is Hebrews 8:13. And that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. And right there automatically, see, the law's done away with. Which they don't understand that, which we'll go over it. But this is the book of Matthew, chapter 13, and verse 52, I believe it is. And it says, Then said he unto them, Therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. Okay? So there's old things or new things and old things. And what's that? You have the Old Testament and you have the New Testament. Now here in Hebrews, they're thinking that when it says new here, that it's just talking about the Old Testament. It says a new covenant. Because when you read up above it, the Lord said he is going to make a new covenant with, matter of fact, let me go to it. And verse 7. Verse 6. But now he that obtained the more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. Now, was the first covenant faultless? Well, the covenant itself wasn't, but the people, we were faulty. The covenant really wasn't without fault. It was really us, because it goes on to say, for finding fault with them. See, with Israel, he said, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. And the first covenant was what? It was a blood sacrifice. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. This is Exodus 24. Just want to go straight to the point. Exodus 24 and 5. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant, which is what? The Bible, the agreement, the testimony, or the testament, and read in the audience of the people. And he read all the laws. And in all the laws, it said, if you don't do this, if you do this, you're going to get put to death, or you're going to get separated from your people, or you're going to have to do a sacrifice of this, or that, right? And it was a blood sacrifice for the most part. And read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord have said will we do, and be obedient. So Israel made an oral agreement with the Most High to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. Because the book is that covenant, that agreement, that contract. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. So what was the first covenant? It was established by blood, which is what? Which is, if you broke the law, you had to sacrifice certain animals' blood in order to receive atonement or forgiveness. And once a year, the high priest will go into the Holy of Holies and sacrifice, the blood of animals for the offense and the remission and forgiveness of the nation of Israel. So that's pretty much what the first covenant was all about. And then when you go to Hebrews, because the book of Hebrews really breaks it all down, because these people that Paul was writing to, these Israelites, they were still doing sacrifices because they didn't understand about Yahawashi. So that's why he went there to explain it to them, to explain to these Israelites, these Hebrews, what the deal was. That's why he started off his epistle, Hebrews 1:1. The Most High, who has sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, he was going all the way back to the beginning of the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the world. So then from this point on, he starts breaking down and explaining to them about the sacrifice that Yahawashi made, and that it was promised, and that he came from the very beginning. He was supposed to be that sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. All right. So when you go to Hebrews 9:22, and almost all things are by the blood and almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. Why? Because when you go to the next chapter, Hebrews 10, and I believe it's, what is it? 28. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. And then it says, of how much sore punishment suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of the Most High, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, which is what? The blood of Yahawashi, the blood of the covenant. Hold on, let me get this other scripture that just popped in my head. 1 Peter chapter 2. I'm sorry, chapter 1. Just, so I won't forget it. It says, of how much sore punishment suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of the Most High, and hath counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace. Because that was the grace. The Lord gave us Yahawashi as an ultimate sacrifice so that we could receive remission of sins. That's where grace comes in. That's where liberty comes in. That's why it says, use not your liberty as a cloak of maliciousness. Just because Yahawashi did this for us does not give us liberty to go ahead and just break the law willfully, or just break the law in general, because he made that sacrifice, and that sacrifice was precious, and we have to, we can't take that for granted. All right, going to 1 Peter 1 and 18, for as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Yahawashi, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, for who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. See, who by him do believe in the Most High, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in the Most High. So it's no longer according to the sacrifices of the law, but that does not mean that the law itself is done away with. And there's scriptures to prove all of this. But the problem is with these wacky ass Christians is they don't want to accept it because their hearts have been hardened. The Lord said he has reserved 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal, meaning they didn't bow down to any of these other false doctrines and false religions and false ways and false customs and false traditions. Romans 3:31. Do we then make void the law through faith? The Most High forbid. Because we have faith and the Lord gave us grace, do we then make the void law through faith? Do we then make void the law through faith? The Most High forbid. God forbid, meaning no. Yea, we establish the law. Instead, we establish the law. Now, what does it mean to establish the law? The word establish is histemi, to cause or make to stand, to place, put, set, to bid. Yeah, it says to bid, to stand by, set up in the presence of others, in the midst of before judges, before members of the Sanhedrin, to place, to make firm, fix, establish. To cause a person or thing to keep his or its place, to stand, be kept intact, a family, a kingdom, to escape in safety, to establish a thing, cause it to stand, to uphold or sustain the authority or force of anything. And this is dealing with the law. So the law is still in full effect. The only thing is, right now, our iniquities and our transgressions have been blotted out, so to speak, through the blood of Yahawashi. But it's still, the law is still in effect. That's why the Lord, the Most High Yahweh, is still going to judge the earth. Because how is the Most High going to judge the earth if there's no standard to judge the earth by? You have to think about that. Why is the Most High going to bring judgment? Because the world has misused His laws, statutes, and commandments under the hand of these Edomites, and they have broken the law, statutes, and commandments. Did despite to it, and have placed the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, in captivity. And did all type of manner of wickedness and murder and rape and all kind of stuff they did to Jake. So the Most High is going to deal with them for that. Why? Because that's part of the law. Scriptures say, remove not the ancient landmarks. If a man lead another man, if a man, matter of fact, let me get that real quick. I can't think of the exact quote, but it's in the book of Exodus. Exodus 21. Just get that real quick. And 16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. So these are all laws, man, that are written in this Bible that you claim that you believe in, that you uphold. And you Edomites, you so-called white people, you don't believe in the Bible. You know, you don't believe in these scriptures. All right, so moving on. So we go from there to the book of Romans 6 real quick. 6 and I start at 12. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that you should obey it in the lust thereof. Now, what is sin? You know, people are always talking about the laws done away with. That's why these wacky ass Christians just need to shut the hell up. You know, either learn and listen, or just be quiet and be destroyed. Or should I say, listen and learn. 1 John 3 and 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is a transgression of the law. What law? The law of the Most High. The laws that the Lord gave to Moses to give to the children of Israel. Yahweh's laws, which are contained in the first 5 books of Moses. And anywhere else there's a decree in the scriptures, you know, of Yahweh Bashem Yahawashi. But it's mainly found in the first 5 books of the law. So sin is a transgression of the law. What does it mean to transgress the law? It means to break the law. So when you break the law, that's considered sin. So it says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that you should obey it in the lust thereof. This is speaking to Israel. Neither yield you your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, because sin is still alive and in effect. And what's the strength of sin? Let's get that real quick. 1 Corinthians 15. Just bear with me 1 second. 1 Corinthians 15 and 56. The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. So the law is still in effect because sin is still in the world. So it says, neither yield your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin. And that's why these wacky ass Christians say that the law is done away with so that they can do whatever the hell they want to do. You know, they want to eat pork. You know, they want to save everybody. You know, they want to eat shrimp and lobster, you know, and commit adultery and be a homosexual and all of that without any repercussions. So if they say the law is done away with, that makes their conscience feel better. But it doesn't, man, because the Most High is still going to bring forth his fury upon the world, man, because this world is corrupt, totally corrupt, especially underneath the hands of these so-called white people, these Edomites. It says, as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto the Most High. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. So we have grace, but the law is still in effect. We can't just say, okay, we have faith or grace or liberty, and now we don't have to deal with the laws anymore. No. We still have to uphold the law. We read in Romans the 3rd chapter. We established the law. It says, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? The Most High forbid. So shall we break the law because we're not under it right now, but under grace? No, in no way. So that means that the laws are still in effect. And as we read before in the book of Judges, the 5th chapter, we rehearsed the righteous acts. So those laws are still alive and kicking. The problem is people want to do their own thing. You know, that's why Hebrews 8 and 13, it says, in that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. What is ready to vanish away? The law of sacrifice. We no longer have to sacrifice. Because the bottom line is this. The Lord made the decree that if you break the law, the only way to atone for it was to shed blood. You know, as you read in the law. Yahawashi came to shed his blood to redeem Israel from their transgressions. The Israelites right now that are part of the 2/3 The Israelites that are part of the 1/3 have already been covered by the blood of Yahawashi, the same way we were covered by the blood of the lamb in Egypt during the time of the Passover. Right now, those Israelites, the 2/3 that are not covered by the blood of Yahawashi, guess what? They're the sacrifice. Their blood has to be shed. They have to be made. They have to die, and their blood has to be shed for them to make that atonement. See? So it all works in conjunction. So when it says a new covenant the Lord's going to make with us, meaning that he's going to establish the second covenant, which the second covenant was the shedding of Yahawashi's blood to give us remission of sins, that adoption, and the laws being put into our inward parts. Okay? So what is really done away with in the law? Because it tells you that in back in Matthew the 5th chapter. Let me read that real quick. I think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So when Yahawashi fulfilled that, he did away with the law of sacrifice. But he also did away with that glory that was being given to the law. They were looking at the law in awe, as if they were looking at the Most High. So the Most High sent Yahawashi to take away the shine, so to speak, from the law, from Elijah, from Moses, which we're going to get into that too. And it was changed. Why? Because now we're going to be a nation of priests. As to back then, only the Levites were the priests of the Most High. Now all Israel is going to be priests. All the men of Israel are going to be priests. Why? Because that's part of the covenant that the Lord made with us. When you go back to the scriptures, I believe, what is this? Exodus 19, if I'm not mistaken. Exodus 19:5. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenants, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. Why? Because we're all going to be priests, not just the Levites. That was just the beginning. That was a shadow of things to come. The temple being on the earth, that was a shadow of things to come. Everything that happened, when we were in the wilderness and set up, and the tabernacle and the cherubims and the holy of holies, all of that was just a prelude of what's to come. Because in the kingdom, it's going to be all perfect and righteous. Why? Because we're going to have the laws, statutes, and commandments put into our inward parts. We're going to be perfect. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. See? So these are the words you shall speak unto the children of Israel. They're going to be the priests. They're the nation of priests. They're going to be a kingdom. They're going to be royalty. They're going to be rulership. They're going to be above all nations. You see? All right, so going back to Hebrews 7, it says Hebrews 7:11. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? Why? Because the promise was that the Lord was going to make us all priests, not just the tribe of Levi. It says, for he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth, verse 12. For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. Why? Because now no longer do we sacrifice. The whole nation is going to be priests. We don't have to go through all those sacrifices because Yahawashi made the final sacrifice. And when you read through the book of Hebrews, that's what Paul was explaining to these Israelites that he was writing to. That Yahawashi became the ultimate sacrifice. You no longer have to shed the blood of bulls and the blood of lambs and rams and all of that, turtle doves. It's already done through Yahawashi once. That's it. So now let's get into the glory of the law. 2 Corinthians 3:1. I'm going to try to read through this as quick as I can. Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Ye are our epistles written in our hearts, known and read of all men. Because when the people see those men back then, they know those men came up under Paul. Paul's the one that taught them. Same thing today. When you're dealing with a brother, a sincere brother, a man of the Lord from Great Millstone, by his mannerisms, by the way he teaches, by the learning that he has, from studying and all of that. It says, for as much as you are manifestly declared to be the epistles of Yahawashi, administered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living power, not in tables of stone, but in fleshy tables of the heart. It keeps referring to that. Why? Because that's the stony heart is going to be taken away, and the fleshy heart is going to be established, meaning we're going to be able to do righteousness again and not go off anymore. But it goes back to the fleshy and the stony. It says, "In such trust have we to Yahawashi, to the Most High Word, that not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything as of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of the Most High, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, this new agreement." Not that the Old Testament was done away with and the New Testament is in force. No, because they're both in force. The New Testament or the new agreement. You have to learn words to understand certain scriptures, and the Spirit of the Lord got to guide you. Not of the letter. Why? Because through the law is the knowledge of sin, as Apostle Paul said. And when the law revived, I died. Why? Because we're still carnal, sold under sin. But of the Spirit, for the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. And that's the thing, because you can't keep the law perfect. Let me get that real quick. What is that? James 2 and just bear with me 1 second. Right here, James 2 and 10. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. So it's impossible to keep the laws perfectly, even though some guys still try to say that they keep it perfectly, which is a bunch of lies. So going back to 2 Corinthians 3 and 6, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. But if the ministration of death, which is the law, written and engraven in stones, was glorious, see, so this is the deal. It was glorious, because it's going to give the example of Moses. When Moses came down from the mount after being those 40 days, 40 nights with the Most High, the glow that was on his face was that wisdom. The scriptures say wisdom maketh the man's face to shine. And that wisdom that Israel couldn't look on, that was the glory of the law. Because the law at that time, it was time for the law to really be exalted. That's why the Lord put it in tablets and gave it to Moses to give to the nation of Israel, so that the other nations out there could look at it and be in awe of the power and the majesty of the Most High through his people, and through what he used to separate his people from those other nations. And that was from that point on that the law was the talk of the town, so to speak. But then when Yahawashi came on the scene, the law had to take a back seat, because he is the law. He is the word. But that doesn't mean that law was done away with. It's still in effect. But there were certain men that were not going to be held accountable for going off. That's why the Lord said, blessed is the man upon whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity, and in whose spirit is no guile. Not the flesh, because his flesh is weak. So it says, let me look up that word glorious here, see what it says. And doxa. N is in doxa. Opinion, judgment, view, opinion, estimate, whether good or bad concerning someone. In the New Testament, always a good opinion concerning one, resulting in praise, honor, and glory. And the law is good. That's in the book of Romans 7 and 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy and just and good. So the law is good and holy. So that's what gave it that glory, that honor. Because it's just, wow, these laws are so great. Because if you look at it and you analyze it, the way it's all set up, everything is in proper harmony. Everything works in conjunction one with the other. Now, when you check out Esau's laws, everything conflicts with one another. That's why them attorneys and them lawyers and prosecutors can go to the law. You could bring out a law in your defense, and they could go to another law in that same volume of laws that overturns what you said. They don't work in conjunction. They work against each other. But the laws of the Most High in the scriptures, they work in conjunction one with the other. Don't commit adultery. If you commit adultery, this is what's going to happen. And this is what's going to happen. This is what the penalty for it. You know? Don't honor thy mother and thy father, for you will have long life. You know? Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Everything works in conjunction one with the other, opposed to Esau's laws. So that's what gives it right here, splendor, brightness, you know, that magnificence, excellence, dignity, grace, preeminence, majesty. So the law was lauded as a majesty, you know, as a great thing, which it is. But Yahawashi is greater, because Yahawashi is the word. He encompasses and engulfs the word. All right. So moving on, it says, but if the ministration of death written and engraven in stones was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses for the glory of his countenance, which glory was to be done away. See, so that's what's going to be done away, is the glory of the law. Meaning it's going to be brought, the shine of the law is going to be brought down so that Yahawashi could shine. You know, but in the kingdom, that law is going to be put into us. It's going to go back to how it was supposed to be. How shall not the ministration of the Spirit be rather glorious? If what we're ministering right now is the Spirit, you know, is the gospel, the good news of Yahawashi. So this is to be much more glorious, you know, because that was the greatest sacrifice ever done on the planet ever. For if the ministration of condemnation be glory, much more doth the ministration of righteousness exceed in glory. So it keeps speaking about glory. For even that which was made glorious had no glory in this respect, by reason of the glory that excelleth, which is what? The glory that excelleth is Yahawashi. You know? For if that which is done away was glorious, much more that which remaineth is glorious. You know, so Yahawashi is, because the law spoke about Yahawashi. And he came to fulfill it, as he says in Matthew the 5th chapter. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech, and not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Israel could not steadfastly look to the end of that which was abolished. Which is what? The glory. It didn't say nothing about the law being abolished. It was that glory and the honor in which they esteemed it. You know, and that honor and glory is gonna come back to the law. But right now, the glory and honor is to the sacrifice that Yahawashi made. You know, because he came on the earth in the flesh as a man with corruptible flesh, but had no sin. He was the only one. It says, but their minds were blinded, and to this day, you Israelites out there, 2/3 of you are still blinded, and 2/3 of you, that especially you in the Christian church. For until this day remaineth the same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Yahawashi, because Yahawashi is the one that's going to give us that great light. You know, it says, they that walked in darkness have seen a great light. Yahawashi is that great light. Did we not read that the law is light? Yahawashi is that word. He encompasses that. So why not give him more glory than you gave the law that spoke about him? But even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. They still hard-headed. They're still stiff-necked. Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. That's why the Lord gave us liberty. That's why it says, use not your liberty as a cloak of maliciousness, because you're freed up from not being put to death by breaking the law. Don't misuse that. Because that's what Jake was doing in the past. That's why the law of sacrifice, the Lord, is stinking in Most High's nose after a while. You know, he loved that savory smell of meat burning and all that. But after a while, he couldn't deal with it. It made him nauseous. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, see the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. So we're being changed from glory to glory. But that doesn't give us license to just break the law on purpose. Okay, so moving on from there, we go into Matthew 17:1. It says, let me just bring this over here because I'm going to need that again. Matthew 17:1. And after 6 days, Yahawashi taketh Yahawashi taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine. So he had that glow as the sun, because wisdom maketh a man's face to shine. So this was an example of the glory that was coming, that was going to be given to Yahawashi. All right, and not everything else that Israel was looking at. It says, and he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Now, why was it Moses and Elias that appeared to him? Because Moses represented the law, and Elias or Elijah represented the prophets, and that was a thing that they had most in esteem. That's the thing that they honored and honored the most, or allegedly, outwardly anyway, but really when you looked at it, they really didn't honor anything. They would do is wicked. Let me get the book of John 5, I believe it is. Just bear with me 1 second. Right, I started John 5:41. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of the Most High in you. Because why? They were hypocrites, and their hearts were hardened. I am come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that cometh from the Most High only? And Yahawashi, all he did was the will of the Father. That's all he cared about, honoring his Father, uplifting his Father, Yahweh. These devils here, all they cared about was uplifting themselves and getting a name and prestige, serving their own belly. Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one that accuseth you, even Moses, in whom you trust. So the law told Yahweh, says, I'm not going to accuse you, because you're already being accused. You're already being found guilty by the same one that you trust in, Moses, which is what? The law. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. See? So this is what they were supposedly outwardly esteeming and being and magnifying and glorifying, and people would laud them because they were these leaders, and they looked the part, but they wasn't the part. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? So going back to Matthew 17, it says, and behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Yahawashi, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee and one for Moses and one for Elias. Why? To honor them, right? To honor all 3, because they were all great men, and they all did great things. But this is what the Most High did. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. See, it's time for him to be glorified. It's time for him to be honored. It's time for the shine to come on him. That's why when he transfigured himself, his face, it said, is shone as the sun, and as a white, and the raiment was as white as light, because that glory was being transferred from the law and the prophets to the Messiah that was spoken of by the law and the prophets. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. And Yahawashi came and touched them and said, Arise and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Yahawashi only. Why? Because it was time for him to be glorified. And now it's time for him to be magnified on the earth once again, because the world don't know him. They give Edomite, a so-called white dude, the honor of being the son of the Most High. And that's bullshit, man. And as they came down from the mountain, Yahawashi charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. Why? Because it was a vision. All right, so going to Matthew 5:19, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because the laws are still in effect. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because we still rehearsing the righteous acts. For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Why? Because they were hypocrites. So if you at least are attempting to keep the law, it says you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. So if your righteousness doesn't exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you're not going to enter to the kingdom. You're not going to be saved or delivered. So if you're attempting a little bit, at least, that's a start, and you're doing far better than these wicked ass Pharisees and scribes in them. All right. So, and then the last scripture here, Revelation 22:18. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, the Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book. So you're going to be destroyed. You're not going to go into the kingdom in the first resurrection. You're going to have to wait. So this has been the glory of the law is what was done away with, And I hope with that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.